been a busy week. Donald Trump got his mugshot released, and Drake told us that he was dropping soon, and then decided not to drop on Friday. Well, today. Fuck you, Drake. I was up waiting for that shit, and not even fucking Ale Sweatshirt dropped, aside from some fucking obscure NFT music platform thing, and I'm not listening to it over there. Fuck that. I'll just wait for it to come on Spotify. So, yeah, let's start off the reviewing with an album I missed, which is Sai Krishna's Roquel. This guy commented under a TikTok post of someone that I know of, and I just decided to give him a chance. Also, if you're on TikTok, please follow Rune for epic music review. Rune is fire. Even if his taste is a bit shit, he gave Lana Del Rey a 6. And even if their taste, decided to give him a chance, and it was pretty good. I get the aesthetic he was going for here, some like unusual, weird, fragmented, glitchy, weird instrumental type of shit. And then like sometimes works. There are genuinely great tracks to take out of it, such as like Poets Lie to You, which were kind of beautiful in their own special way. Fucking hell. However, it can just be too fragmented for its own good and be a bit of an empty slog, especially towards the end of the album, where there are there are 3 7-minute plus tracks in a row. A lot of them are passable, but Imperfect is Perfect is one of the most boring things I've ever heard in my life, which is basically just the last track again. And as much as it wasn't bad the first time, oh my god, what do you want? As much as it wasn't bad the first time, I didn't really want to hear it exactly like 2 fucking seconds later. And it's also pretty clear the amateur sounded drums suck, and this did have amateur sounding drums. That's just the way it is. And overall, the sound it tried to go for was interesting sonically, yes, but I think it only slightly worked in like some circumstances. And at best, it was kind of beautiful, and it did have some good tracks, but at worst, it was a bit of a slog. It's passable though, nonetheless. 6.1 out of 10. Album re-review time. Starting off with Coi Lerais Coi, and I'd be lying if I said there weren't a few bangers and this had nothing redeemable whatsoever. Some of the samples here, such as the one on Man's World, were actually pretty good, and Coi's energetic performances added a lot to many songs. There were bangers on this thing too, such as like Bitch Girl. I don't care, it's fire. But this isn't without its awful tracks and awful ideas. The British accent on Don't Chat Me Up, because it's called Don't Chat Me Up and Giggs is featured. Why? Really? And this is also ignoring that horrendous Pump Up the Jan sampling David Guetta track, Make My Day, which is an unbearable listen. And yeah, that's the whole sentence. And the features in general added nothing aside from Giggs, and someone needs to tell her that she can't sing, because Radioactive was such a hard song to get through. And overall, this album is a complete fucking mess. Coi has decent performances, but her whole shtick wears very thin very quickly, and overall, this album ends up being kind of awful in the places where it doesn't hit, and its inconsistency causes a bad album. 4.2 out of 10. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I've listened to 17 projects from this week. Most of them I've only listened to once, but still, I've listened to them. I think I did listen to one of them twice, to be fair. But, obviously, I'm not going to return to most of these, but, and I'm definitely not going to return to this one, Dax Is What Is Life. This is one of the most unbearable albums ever, on the face of it, but it was actually laughably bad, so it was pretty damn enjoyable. It's just shit. The confessional songwriting is just corny and dumb. Men have to be weak, sort of like fake woke type of shit. And the instrumentals are just awful melodic trap, and he has some of the worst vocals I've ever heard in my life, I'm not even joking. Tracks such as like God's Eyes and Dear Alcohol are intolerable for that reason. 2023 and To Be a Man are preachy as fuck, as was God's Eyes, and preachy tracks equal shit. Can I get Lola on the thing? Is that what a snoozle? Look at this. Look at it. Oh, I can't zoom in. I think you could just about see her face. Yeah. Shit. Right, anyway, yeah, that'll do. Catch the Rain was just blah. And despite all of this, The Abyss wasn't too bad. But yeah, aside from that though, this is one of the most intolerable listens I've ever had. 0.5 out of 10, but before I move on to the next one, I missed one of the album re-reviews, Melody Martinez's Portals. I'm going to quickly get through this one. I do admire the odd atmosphere she was going with, but it didn't work at all. The pop rock was bland, the vocal effects were awful, the lyrics were not sexualising children this time at least. Suck, and everything just went wrong. Just tried to be too camp and ended up being unlistenable. However, Death does still go fucking hard, but you know what else goes hard? The fucking Consent Law. If only she knew that. Very good. It's very good, the Consent Law, W. And yeah, there are a few other listenable tracks, but tracks such as Nymphology were genuinely unlistenable. The 3-track run in between The Contortionist and that track is probably one of the worst, if not the worst, this year. Don't even know what I was thinking calling it great. It sucked. It didn't work. Bland. Ew. No, it sucked. Well, I just gave a point for being cool, and it wasn't even cool. 2 out of 10. Alright, back to this week, starting off once again with Lil Zay Osama's For the Trenches. People with any ties to Only the Family seem to have all of the ability to make melodic trap of a paraplegic who's never listened to the genre. This guy is no exception. The first 3 tracks, where it's aggressive trap, isn't too bad, especially Spin Spin, which was pretty hard. But when it became melodic, it stayed melodic, and unfortunately, it was unbearable. And I think the best way to describe how bad it was is that 2 Ray genuinely carried the track he was on. You know, the guy from the XXL Cypher who sucked. Was like, I never ever somebody talking, you know, that one. He carried. He fucking carried. Songs such as Lies were genuinely awful with boring beats, are some of the worst singing I've ever heard. And the features also sucked, aside from 2 Ray. Even in like the listenable shit, Rob 49 sucked. Ruined the song. Everyone else had pretty poor features to the name. And yeah, in a nutshell, it's listenable on the Ray aggressive tracks, but awful on the melodic ones. And unfortunately, the melodic ones are more many, so that makes it more shit. 1.7 out of 10. Moving on to Addison Rae with AR. Nothing on but the radio. It's not offensive, but like, she turned a Lady Gaga on release so lifeless. She did it in the most lazy way possible, and I just hate it because of that. But you know, on the surface, it's not the worst thing ever, I guess, but once you know that, I just can't enjoy it at all. Yeah, in a nutshell, this EP is basic and lifeless, sometimes laughably bad too. To Die For was unbearable, even with Charlie XCX on it. She can't get on a good song for her life. Every time she's featured on a track, it always seems to suck. The one on the Barbie soundtrack was fucking shit. The one on the Tiesto album, awful. Like, I don't get it. She's amazing, but she doesn't pick good tracks to be featured on. Obsessed is also pretty not good, but I think we already knew that. As is I Could Have Been You. I got it bad though. It was alright, I guess. It wasn't that bad. But, yeah. Overall, basic, but dog shit, because it was just so lifeless. There was about as much personality on this thing as there is in a fucking table. 2 out of 10. Moving on to Dame Dollar with Don Dollar. And I think someone needs to tell Damian Lillard to stick to basketball. Most of this album is bland, uninteresting, and awful trap. Fuck. Songs such as Cabo were boring trash, but the more introspective traps... Fuck. I've said track instead of trap, and now trap instead of tracks. How are we already 9 minutes in? However, the more introspective tracks on the album, such as I Ain't Perfect, were actually solid. This did have highlights and good tracks, but they weren't that high in comparison to how low and frequent the lows were. Tracks 7 to 12 is one of the worst track ones I've heard all year. It's a real shame, as if he stuck to like the shit he was doing on like Back Home, we'd actually get a decent enough album, but this is just bland, boring, and pretty bad. Better as a Basketball, a 3.2 out of 10. Moving on to Diesel and Shaquille O'Neal with Guerrilla Warfare. And if I had a nickel for every time a basketball player created a bad album, I'd have 2, which isn't a lot, but it's kind of weird that happened twice. But anyway, annoying overused joke aside, Shaq has made a fucking bro step album. And it's actually got a couple of bangers. I hate Bro Step as much as the next guy, but I've got to admire some tracks. I don't hate it so much that I can't listen to any of it. Tracks such as like Romani Adventures, I can accept is like a guilty pleasure, as is like Warzone and Watch Your Back, which I do admire from the trap inspiration on the instrumental and just how interesting the song is. But the rest of the album is just like the awful basic bro step shit that just sucks. Middle FU standing for fingers up, was awful, and I think you can tell why immediately. It's just some guys screaming, middle fingers up, which is the worst thing you could say in a fucking song. Middle fingers up is just a corny lyric anywhere, and it always will be. So just combine that with a basic ass bro step instrumental, and you get complete shit. Corny shit as well. Shall I move my chair so you can see her face? Lola. She's just ignoring us, but anyway. Tracks such as Warfare may have not been as corny, but had the issues I mentioned with it just being basic bro step shit, and overall, this was a pretty poor album that has all the issues I've had in 99% of bro step. Has some bangers though, guilty pleasure wise, somehow. 3.4 out of 10. Moving on to Dro Kenji's Wish You Were Here, and I like the vocals and I like the sounds of the album, to be honest. Tracks such as Myself are fire, but this album is insanely basic in every single fucking track. Tracks such as Tug of War and Presidential are so boring and forgettable, as is practically the rest of the album. It's one of those where you haven't got much to say at all because it's that bland and inoffensive. There, you can see her face now. There's potential in them, and for sure solid tracks. Another example being the opener Throw Up, but it's insanely basic and insanely forgettable. Mid 5.3 out of 10. Moving on to Ciara with Cece. I like the sound of this EP, especially on tracks such as Winning, which had a decent enough Big Freedia feature. However, somehow, by a miracle, Lil Baby actually had a good verse. His melodic style on Forever was actually pretty good, but this album was often corny, as much as I kinda like the instrumentals here. And BRB sounded pretty amateur as a song, it could have been done better. Type of Party joins My Body by Coi Leray as another unbearable interpolation of the exact same track. Overall, it's got a decent sound, but it's too corny for its own good, and Type of Party's awfulness brings it down a bit. 5.6 out of 10. I know there's another feature on this thing. I can't remember who did it, but it sucked. I don't really want to dwell on it, though, because I've got so much to review. Such as Jon Batiste's World Music Radio, which is Miss Potential, the album. A pretty disappointing release here from an artist everyone knows can do so much more than he did here. This was bland, boring, uninteresting, and in songs such as White Space, Drink Water, one of the corniest songs ever, and the insanely corporate cash grab Be Who You Are, which had a pretty awful JIT feature. Downright awful. The vocals were either beautiful or awful, nothing in between, and overall this album is pretty inconsistent in every single way. It has highlights. We are rewarded with listening to the slog of the album with Life Lesson, which is a phenomenal Lana Del Rey track, at least. So there's something. But even in the slog of the album, it's not without good tracks such as Boom For Real. But yeah, overall though, the interludes seem to be better than the longer, deeper cuts, which are often forgettable and awful, and as the album goes on, it falls to background music as it does literally nothing to keep you paying attention, and is overall a disappointing mid-release. 5.8 out of 10. Bada bing, bada boom. I love her. Did you like Gig Zero Tolerance? Because I kinda did. Because the beat selection is so good. Well, everything else is kind of mid. I do have to be honest in that regard. The performances from Gigs mostly add nothing to the songs, and neither did the features. Popcaan, 21 Savage, and Jadakiss, what the fuck was this feature, by the way? That was awful. Ruined the songs they were on, and everyone else, apart from the only good feature on the album, Dave East, was mid as hell. She wanna give me cookie, 21. That's a genuine bar that 21 Savage said in this song. Lola's so disappointed that she's trying to go to sleep. Starlets and Spider-Man. Oh, shit. This wasn't without its highlights, such as the Davies track Starlets and the song Spider-Man, but the highlights weren't many enough to counter the insane amount of mids on the album that much, i.e. about half of the album, such as like Unlimited Blessings, if you want to be specific. And amongst this, it's just basic for the most part, and while it's never bad, it's never bad at all, aside from some of the features. It's basic and carried by the beats. As the performances rap-wise left a lot to be desired, but the beats are just too good. 6.6 out of 10. Moving on to Beardy with Portraits. Kind of makes me sad, this one. How Beardy has got so much potential to make a masterpiece, and she just wastes it on just bland electropop. She does it better than most, absolutely, and it's not bad, but she has potential to make masterpieces like, say, Jessie Ware does these days, but with songs such as Paradise Calling, she shows that she's just in her comfort zone a bit, as much as that song is decent. But this does have a couple of great tracks, such as, say, Raincatchers. That's such a catchy banger, and just a brilliant song. And the two tracks titled Ruins were fire too, but yeah, that aside, it's just passable, and in the case of, say, the title track, mid. And overall, this album ends up being one of those that is good but not great. 6.6 out of 10. Moving on to Russ's Santiago, which was pretty decent, but like in the most uninteresting way possible. Only I Love You Boy wowed me because of how good the beat was, and only No More was bad, as it was just grating as fuck. Everything else ranged from being mid, i.e. Oasis, to decent, i.e. Frauds. Everything else was like a 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10, a 7 out of 10. It's one of them. And, you know, that aside, I don't have anything else to say about the album. It's a solid enough project with decent everything, but also it's never anything better than decent pretty much ever, aside from one or two tracks in two ways, but it was never that bad. Even the worst track was just a bit blah, more than awful. Do you get me? 6.7 out of 10. Jesus, this one's long. Moving on to Leon Thomas's Electric Dusk, and I'm going to be completely honest, this album did really disappoint me. The first three songs were phenomenal. The production on the instrumentals and the distortion was beautiful, and that Benny the Butcher feature on X-Rated is so good, and it's as good as he's been in a hot minute when it comes to features. It's so good. Among this, I do kind of love the mix in here. As much as some people think it sucks, I don't. After the first three tracks, though, the album falls apart in terms of quality and turns into the most basic, drab indie you'll ever hear. Don't get me wrong, it does basic drab indie pretty well. Socialite's a decent enough song, but it is still insanely run-of-the-mill, and Leon does the whole indie vocals thing where he tries too hard to do the most ridiculous vocal runs ever that just never sound good. Indie singers need to stop the fucking vocal runs. Just sing like a normal person. You sound better. Among this, songs such as My Will are just boring and mid as hell, and the inclusion of two versions of Breaking Point was just lazy, especially considering the remix just added background vocals from Victoria Monet that brought absolutely nothing to the table. And while on the topic of features, Ty Dolla $ign didn't do much of any interest at all. The vocals in general sucked on the song he was in, Love Jones, and that was the start of the album falling away from the dizzying height of the first three songs. Overall, it is good, and it does have some enjoyable tracks, yes, but it's basic, and judging off the first few tracks, it didn't reach its full potential at all. It's 6.8 out of 10. Moving on to the midweek release of Autumn's Midnight Club, which is pretty solid, but nothing more. This album goes for a pretty melodic sound, especially towards the back end with tracks such as 4G Cellar. However, it is pretty run-of-the-mill in general, and the Plug stuff especially is run-of-the-mill. He stays in his comfort zone pretty much in the whole album, and this album just isn't that compelling. Yes, Cocaine Diamonds is fucking fire, and that one is kind of compelling, but most of this album is just kind of mid, or just drab. Again, reminder of the Russ album, it's just around the 5 to 7 out of 10 range, nothing special. And tracks such as Faith are either insanely forgettable, or have one insanely annoying flaw that brings down the song a lot, Faith being the former of those points. And overall, this album's just really safe. Autumn can and has made an album better than this, and he shows it on some songs such as Summer Mine, but this album is just too run-of-the-mill and nothing special. There are great tracks for sure to take out of it, and most tracks are passable, yeah, but this album feels like wasted potential to some extent, and overall it's a 6.9, funny number, out of 10, ha ha ha. But now, we're finally into the really good stuff, starting off with Hozier's Unreal on Earth, which is beautiful. The vocals are absolutely outstanding, the instrumentals are usually great, and they complement each other so well on songs such as First Light. But the more piano-reliant tracks are, to put it simply, a bit boring. And there are a fair few of these tracks, i.e. Abstract, Psychopomp. That aside, the whole album is often pretty basic, but in highlights such as Francesca, it's so beautiful that you don't even care. And this is a great and beautiful album that, whilst basic, feels personal to Hosier, which I love, and it's just damn beautiful. It just, and I also love how unapologetically Hosier it is. This is Hosier. It's no one else. This is his own thing. As much as it's basic, you know it's him, because obviously he lets his accent come out, and you know, it just feels so personal to him, and that just makes it so much nicer of a listen. It's such a more satisfying listen than this rating suggests. Great. It's honestly more enjoyable than some 8s, but it is a 7.7 overall because of how basic it is. Moving on to Quavo's Rocket Power. If you're going to dedicate an album to someone, at least make it good. At least. But Quavo here made it great. The beats are great, the rapping is great, and the features are fantastic too. Future sounds the best he has in like literally years, and carries back where it begins. Real shame how basic and awful everything else was. Even the Takeoff feature was pretty bad. This album does have some incredible tracks though, such as Patty Cake, which has a much better and a fantastic Takeoff feature in comparison to the other one. Greatness, which has one of the best trap beats I've heard in a while, and obviously the opener, Fueled Up, is just such a banger, man, and kind of beautiful. However, this album does have its fair share of basic tracks, and I don't love the production on every single track. I love it on most of them, but there are some tracks where it's not the best, and Quavo sounds far worse with autotune on like the 2 tracks it's used in. Thugger feature on Focus sucks as well, but that aside, this is a genuinely great trap album and a great tribute to Takeoff, even if every song isn't necessarily a Takeoff tribute. You can tell that it really is, music really is his therapy. He put every ounce of effort he possibly could into this album, and he finally achieved his potential, one of the better trap albums this decade. Quavo's usually been known for being mid, but here, this album is incredible, by his standards, man. 8.2 out of 10, I don't know how we did it. Moving on to Genesis Owusu Struggler, and, it's really nice to see August finally cooking up some great music. This album's a fantastic punk album that is insanely enjoyable, but songs such as Tidal are pretty basic. That is true. But when it isn't basic, it is absolutely phenomenal, and tracks such as What Comes Welcome are masterpieces. I'm a good sucker for good, sort of like abstract, screamy punk. Just in general, it's one of the best genres there is, and when it's done well, it's absolutely incredible. And this is one of the incredible albums for sure. The vocals are great, as is the sort of screamy, rapping type of shit. Reminds me a lot of Paris, Texas, and that's why I love it so much. Overall, this is a phenomenal punk rap album that isn't without basic songs and safe songs, but also has some absolutely phenomenal songs in there as well. Brilliant. 8.6 out of 10, but at the top, it's fucking Mick Jenkins with The Patience, which is absolutely incredible. The beats are unbelievable, and I love the sound of this album, especially on like Sitting Ducks. The features are fantastic for the most part, especially Jid on Spoke Breakdance. Absolutely phenomenal feature, one of the best this year. And the performances in general are brilliant. Mick is at his best and most passionate on the likes of 2004 and Pasta. But there are a couple of songs with basic beats, and Farm to Table doesn't have the best chorus. That aside, I have nothing against this album at all. It is absolutely phenomenal, and probably up there with some of the best rap albums of the year. I think Utopia's grown on me a teeny bit, so I think that slightly beats it out. But this is defo a very close second, 8.9 out of 10. Utopia's also an 8.9, but I think it's slightly better. 23 minutes later, we're finally done with the reviews. How many albums are dropping this week? I'm going to shout out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 albums. I'm actually going to shout out 13. But I'm only going to listen to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to 10 of them. It really depends. I'm going to start off with the Ale Sweatshirt and the Alchemist album, which is called like Voya Dry or something. It's technically out, but it's on some sort of NFT, weird, obscure music site, and, I am not making an account on there just to listen to an album once. I simply cannot be asked. If it's not on SoundCloud or Spotify, I'm not going to listen. Simple as that. If it does come out like midweek on Spotify, which it could do, I will listen to it, but yeah. When it comes on Spotify, I'll listen to it, but I'll just have to wait until then. There's also DJ Muggs with Soul Assassin 3, Death Valley. I'm just going to be honest, I can't be arsed listening to this one. Baldy James, Jay Worthy, Spanto, Ghostface Killer, West Side Gun, Rock Marciano, Rome Streets, Mayhem Lauren, Mr. Cartoon, CeeLo Green, TF, Scarface, Freddie Gibbs, Baldy James again, Jay Worthy again, 211, TF, Devon, The Dude, Evidence, Domo Genesis, Rock Marciano again, Crime Apple, Method Man, Slick Rick, Baldy James for the third time, Rome Streets, Be Real, Ice Cube, MC Ren, Estevan Oriol, and Spanto. There are all the features, there's a lot of them. 19 songs, 46 minutes long, it's probably just going to be very bloated, and, I just don't think it's worth it. Victoria Monet with Jaguar 2, features Lucky Day, Buju Banton, Earth, Wind and Fire, and Hazel Monet. 11 songs, 35 minutes long. I can't be arsed. That's just the whole thing. And also Spelling with Spelling and the Mystery School. 11 songs, 51 minutes long. I would listen to it, but it's just reworkings of previous songs, and I'm kind of just only going to do that for like Taylor's versions. I don't want to listen to an album of songs I've already heard before. Unless it's Taylor Swift, and I kind of have to because it's Taylor Swift. But with Spelling, I don't. So, there you are. So, pretty much nothing good is dropping. But Burna Boy is, for the for the two people here who like his music. How the fuck did he get GZA on this shit? He features GZA, 21 Savage, Dave, Say Vibes, RZA, J. Cole, and Byron Messier. 15 songs, 41 minutes long. How the fuck did you get RZA on this? The features are pretty damn good, but it's Burna Boy, so it's not going to be the best at all, because he's pretty one-dimensional. 6, though. That's my prediction. Moving on to Digga D with Back to Square One, featuring Potter Paper, M. Huncho, and that's it. 15 songs, 39 minutes long, it's probably going to be like a 3. Friday with Self-Titled, Friday, featuring Maverick City Music, My Mom. I don't know whether that's just the name of the artist or it's literally Friday's mum. Adekunle Gold, or however you pronounce that. Fireboy DML, Chris Brown, Ill, Byron Messier, and that's it. 14 songs, 39 minutes long. 5. Young Gravy and however you pronounce this. How do you pronounce it? Baby No Money. BBNO $. With Baby Gravy 3, featuring Freddie Dredd and Rich Brian. 12 songs, 31 minutes long, 4. Ashnika with Weed Killer, featuring Daniela Lolita and Ethel Cain. Holy shit! How the fuck is she gonna fit on an Ashnika song? I've only heard one Ashnika song, so that might be pretty diverse musically, but trap and like some weird sort of like indie chamber pop shit, I guess. Is that what Ethel Cain is? 13 songs, 33 minutes long, 7. That's actually one I'm looking forward to now with Ethel Cain. I love Ethel Cain. Tim McGraw, I'm definitely not looking forward to. Standing Room Only. 13 songs, 49 minutes long, 2. Robin Schulz with Pink, featuring Dennis Lloyd, Phil Bo Reaver, David Guetta, Tom Walker, Ali Farben, Israel Kamakawiwo Ole, and that's it. 17 songs, 52 minutes long, 3. Not looking forward to that at all. And finally, Daddy Frere. You know, that one guy who was on Eurovision twice. And could only actually... 3 times, I suppose, technically had a performance this year, didn't he? But, all of them kind of went wrong, apart from the last one. With I Made an Album, which he's released in 3 installments. I've only heard 1 song, though, so at least it's that. No features, 12 songs, 36 minutes long, 6. So, pretty slim pickings, really, but in terms of quality... It's one of those where it's quantity over quality this week. I don't see any of these being any good, and August has been pretty fucking dry, hasn't it? Let's be honest, it's been dry as hell. Been pretty unfortunate, but that's the way it is. Get this week over it, and hopefully Drake will actually drop next week, and Ale Sweatshirt might release it onto streaming services. Also forgot about Zell with Mosquito, which I might listen to, but... At the moment, he released every song as a single instead of all of them in like an actual playlist album type form. and I can't be bothered like looking for every single song just in case it's just jumbled up, and yeah, I just can't be asked. So I'll just, if it actually gets released into a playlist, yes, I will listen to it. But if it doesn't, I'll swerve. So there you are. There you go. I might actually give this dog some attention now. Thank you very much for watching. Half an hour, holy shit. I mean, to be fair, I did review 20 albums here and shout out 30 more. So yeah, I've had a lot to do. But hopefully the next episode won't be as long. Thank you for watching. I'll probably get shorter towards the end of the year, thankfully. So there you are. Ta for watching. See you next time. See ya. Bye. I've miraculously managed to find 2 more albums. I've got Danger Mouse and Gemini the Gifted One with Born Again. 10 songs, 36 minutes long. 7. And Toro y Moi. Sorry, Toro. There we go. With their EP, 5 songs, 30 minutes long. There's a song called Said Goodbye to Rock and Roll, which I think says a lot about how shit the EP is going to be, sorry. 3. Alright, bye.